What's happening, everybody? We welcome you back to another episode of San Diego Prep Insider. We are back to talking to top recruits. We're joined by Henry Armstrong. He's a multi-sport athlete from the Bishop's School and a an aficionado of the bleach blonde look.
Yep.
This is one of the few that's not from surfing all the time. This was a genuine choice,
Mhm.
but he is here to talk about a lot of things. Mainly, though, we are going to talk with him about his decision to commit to play baseball at Tufts, which
Yep.
means that he is one of the smart ones. He's going to be like an engineer or a mathematician. We'll figure that out also as we go. But congratulations, Henry. Let's actually start there. What was that decision for you? Congratulations, but tell us all about it.
Yeah, it was definitely a 40-year deal. That's kind of a term that's tossed around a lot, but I really wanted a school that's high in academics and great in baseball. So it was obviously it's in Boston, great location. And I just wanted somewhere that I know would set me up for the rest of my life. And Tufts was the best option I could find. So that was really what it was, the academics, the coaching, just the success of the program. And that's really why I made the decision. And I'm glad I made it.
So was Tufts always on the short list? Are we talking this was the dream school? Did this come to you sort of late in the process? How did you arrive at Tufts?
Yeah. So it was my process was I always wanted a high academic school. So that kind of started off with like the Ivies. And then obviously the NESCAC is known as like the little Ivies. So that was kind of what I was looking for through my whole recruiting process. I'd known about Tufts all of my high school career. And so what it was is I was at a Harvard camp, and one of the coaches was there. He saw me, he liked me, reached out to Coach BK, the head coach at Bishops. And then actually, the recruiting coordinator from Harvard is now the head coach at Tufts. So there was a connection there. And so I'd known it was a great academic school, and I'd already been in contact with Coach Stark. And so that's kind of how it came to be. It was always like a school that I was definitely like I would love to consider. And so once it like an opportunity came, I was like super excited about it.
So it was on the radar, and once that path opened up, you're like, "Heck yes, I'm doing it." Do you know
Sure.
what you want to major in? Do you know what you want to graduate and do if Major League Baseball does not pan out?
Yeah, so I think um I still obviously kind of down the line, but going into business would be very interesting. My dad worked in private equity for a while, and I kind of like the hard work aspect, kind of party hard and work hard, kind of that sounds kind of appealing to me. But I think that, and then also kind of just a random thought, but minoring in philosophy, that probably wouldn't be something that would correlate with a degree or a future in a career, but I don't know. It kind of just popped in my head randomly, and I think minoring in that and majoring in business or economics would be super interesting. So
So a philosophically minded hedge fund manager. Deal. I love it.
exactly.
Winding up at a smaller school, you talk a lot about academics. You go to
Yeah.
Bishops, which is a very academically minded school, but maybe I was hoping you could give some advice to the younger kids, eighth graders, middle school, just people who are still doing this journey, because a lot of kids want to go to college to play baseball or any
Mhm.
sport in general, but it's hard to figure out like how much do you commit to here, how much do you commit to here, academics, athletics. You got to be good at both. You got to also sometimes be your own advocate, because some of these
For
smaller
sure.
schools on the other side of the country, 3,000 miles away, how do you even like, it's so many variables that I feel like a lot of kids just don't even know how to be their best advocate. So what is some of the advice that you would give to younger student athletes out there now that you're done with the process?
Yeah. So obviously having if you want to be an academic, like you want to go to a school that's great academics in baseball or whatever sport you want, I always think of it as using sports as a tool to go to a great academic school. That's kind of what I wanted to do. Go to a school that I wouldn't necessarily gotten into by myself. So it's really important to know that balance. Time management is so crucial. Going to a high school like Bishop's where the academics are tough and then you're also playing sports, knowing to take advantage of your free time. Like if you're just going to be at home sitting watching TikTok or whatever, instead of that, kind of get your homework out of the way, get your studying out of the way first. And then once you have that done, then you can do whatever you want in your leisure time. So I think not procrastinating, getting things out of the way really takes a big chunk off of that trying to balance sports and academics. And that's was huge for me personally. And then more on the recruiting side, being your biggest advocate, like not being afraid to go up and talk to coaches at camps or tournaments or whatever, goes a long way because it shows like you're confident. That's what you want. And again, personal relationships push things very far in terms of recruiting or whatever it is in life. So, being a biggest advocate and then having someone in your corner to kind of help, whether that's a high school coach, a club coach, definitely helps out a lot because you're not going to have connections to people from way across the country. So having someone who might have those connections or is willing to reach out for you is a huge game changer. And then if you don't have that certain resource, kind of emailing the coach, sending out emails to a bunch of different places, like even if it's somewhere you don't know if you necessarily end up, is definitely huge because who knows, a coach that you send an email to might just see it, might like it, and then you have some traction. So
Were there schools that you just cold emailed? Just I don't even know if I'm going to go there or not. That you just are like, hey, might as well reach out. Like,
yeah, for sure. There were a lot. So I had like a list of like 40 or 50 schools and like two or three coaches from each school. And so I basically wrote a template email and then I wrote all like my stats, blah, 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 and connected some video. And I sent it out to all of them. So it was like probably 100 something emails. And I did that a couple times. So just being an advocate for yourself goes a long way.
well, and I like bringing that up because, and again, I keep saying this everywhere. I'm not that old, but I feel like the back in my day, I had to pay for DVDs.
Oh,
I had a
yeah.
finite amount of tape that I could send out to teams and schools because
Mm-hmm.
it's like, how many DVDs do I really want to put in the mail and ship across?
Mm-hmm.
Now all you have to do is, like you said, template form email and start spamming that out and getting it out
Exactly.
to a bunch of people. So, all right, man, I love that. I do want to ask you talk about all this different time management. We got a photo of you behind here. You are a football player. You are a baseball player. So you do a lot
Mhm.
of different sports. I'm curious, not that like did football make you a better baseball player or anything like that, but we hear a lot of the club coaches and some of even the high school coaches like really push like, oh, you got to do one sport, you got to really focus. But we talk to so many people like yourself who are going on to play at the next level and did a bunch of sports. So the
Mhm.
one sport versus multi-sport, your take on that? I'm obviously assuming you're in favor of
Mhm.
multi-sports, but what did football do to make you a better baseball player? How did baseball help football? What was that experience like
100%.
splitting the year at Bishops?
Yeah, well, first things, the athleticism that you get from football is something that you don't really get from being a catcher, kind of being stuck behind the plate. Being like fast, like tough, strong. Football did all that for me. And then like athleticism is playing such a big part in recruiting today because of the transfer portal, whatever. If you're a skilled guy, but you're not necessarily athletic, you're not, it's going to be a lot harder for you to end up at like a high level program compared to back in the day when they were looking for skills or whatever. Now they're looking for tools so college coaches can develop those tools. So I think playing another sport and gaining athleticism, just gaining a work ethic is huge. Another thing for me was the mental side, because playing baseball year round can be extremely daunting mentally. Like you can get in a rut very easily, get in slumps. And football allowed me to take like a good 2, 3 month break from it. And I always found that coming back from football, like even though I was rusty, kind of had like a week or two to get back in the swing of things for baseball, like at least hitting wise, I felt great. It was so weird because I'd taken such a long time off, but mentally there wasn't all these blocks in my head and I was just able to be free and play. And that's such a huge thing for baseball.
Physically, though, is it kind of tough to go from middle linebacker to catcher? Because I feel like if you were like an outfielder or something, you like, okay, I got a little sore here, but I'm jog around. But you're back to just legs and arms, and just everything is fully working all the time. And you're like, I just got hit 7 days a week from all
Mm-hmm.
directions for
Yeah,
like you said, for 3 months. So yeah, there's, it feels good to be back, but there's also like a little bit of time you got to take, right, to
that
heal some of the bumps and bruises.
that's why I didn't really talk about defense because just hip mobility and ankle mobility after playing linebacker for 3 months is absolutely brutal. I've like talked with my trainer and he has me doing a whole hip routine now to like get my hips back into place where they need to be for the season. And like you definitely get tight and locked up from football and hitting and all that.
Well,
So
especially at
it can
Bishops,
be
you're
rough
you're
for
you're
sure.
off the field for what, like 4 plays a game? at that.
Yeah, I had to,
You
yeah,
ran a touchdown this year. If didn't you
I
you had
did.
like 8 carries this year even. You wear
I
52.
had a
That is a
touchdown.
5 and a 2, and you're carrying. You're running the rock for the offense.
And yeah, I played a little tight end towards the end of the year. And then I also started off the year at center. So believe it or not, I played center for the first 4 or 5 games. And that's because our center went down. And I was like, I'm a senior and like I had like dabbled on the O line a little bit and I'm kind of tough. So I'll just like put my head down. I wasn't great at it. Like my pass blocking was horrible, but I'll try hard. So that's, they just threw me out there and yeah.
Hey, you say your pass blocking is horrible, but Cash did commit to a college this year. So as far as I'm concerned, your pass blocking got Cash Herrera to Iowa. I can't
Yeah,
convince me otherwise. You can't convince me
yeah.
otherwise.
All the 2 seconds he had in the pocket, yeah.
Oh, you
We
forced him to learn a quick release. There you go. There's no talking
exactly
me out of this. Let's talk baseball because we got
100%.
a little bit of time still until the season. But what are we looking at for your senior year? How's Bishop's going to be?
Yeah, I think we had a little bit of a rough season last year, but we lost 2 guys, 3 guys, so we're returning a lot. And we just had our first winter ball scrimmage yesterday actually, and it went a lot better than I expected because just Bishops we don't have a field on campus, so we haven't really had any on field practices yet. We're just in the cages and throwing, and it went really well. Like our defense was a lot of strides. Our whole infield's returning. A lot of our pitchers are all of our pitchers are returning. A lot of guys are coming back and are more experienced, and I think we're gonna have a lot more success this year. And I think the pitching staff is a lot more experienced as well. Just have throwing strikes is so big for high school baseball, and walks killed us last year, and we did that yesterday. And if we can keep on doing that, then I think there should be a lot of bright spots this season.
Obviously, you have a little bit of the weight off your shoulders with no more
Mm.
need to find a college. But what kind of goals are you setting for yourself this season?
Yeah, I don't want to get too deep into the stats of it because that kind of got in my head a little bit last year. I had a pretty good sophomore year than last year, didn't do as well, but I just want to do as much for the team and win as much as possible. So whether that's situations where we're down one, there's guys on second, third, and 2 outs. I want to be the guy that scores those runs and be as clutch as possible. And then I also want to have obviously stats that show well on me, but most importantly, just be a guy that does as much as possible for the team and contributes to the win as much as possible is something that I'm looking forward to and something that I want to do. And then also like CIF championship, there's no better way to end off your senior year. We came up short my sophomore year in the finals, but so that's definitely something I would love to achieve.
Wasn't trying to bring up that sophomore year game.
Yeah,
Won't even touch it. That was a bad memory for all involved.
definitely.
You mentioned earlier wanting to maybe be a philosophy minor, so you obviously got a head for thinking and talking. As a catcher, there's a lot of downtime, but there's also people are coming in and out of the box all the time. You got to be social with the umpire
Oh
behind you.
yeah.
Do you have any good just like basic conversation points where you're like, hey, here's I'm going to chat up the ump, make sure I get a friendly strike zone.
Oh,
What's a good icebreaker that you like to start a game out with?
yeah, so obviously I go up, I introduce myself, shake the hand, look them in the eye, obviously try to be personable, and then I ask like, how's their day doing, like going, like how's the umping been, like is this your first game of the day? Usually it is. Like how's the season been? Just things like that. Try to get them talking more than I'm talking because that's what my dad says. That's how you know a conversation's going well is when the other person's talking more than you. So I try to talk about things that get them to talk about their experience. And I've been catching for this will be my 4th year in San Diego, so I know a lot of the umpires already. Like sometimes I'll recognize them and then I'll just ask how they're doing or whatever. And just trying to keep a conversation while also like being respectful. Say like there's a call that's a little bit like it's on the plate, you think, and they might have called it a ball, whatever. Just being like, you have that out or something like that. Just and not looking back at them when it's a call that's questionable is huge because you don't want them to be like make it look like it was a bad call on their behalf. Just like kind of asking, poking around, and then if it gets to the point where you're close with them, and then it's like a bad call, you're like you can kind of respectfully disagree, because you've kind of set a foundation of like being personable with them. So
Yeah, the last thing you ever want to do is the head, like the head,
oh
or
yeah, oh
something
that's
like that.
horrible.
But I always like to hit him with the you're killing me here. You're making me work for
Oh,
it. You're running
yeah.
up my pitch count, man. I would try and blame it on I hate my pitcher's running out of the arm. Like, come on, he's throwing his
Yeah.
best here. Do you
Oh,
ever
that's
do it? Do you ever do it to the opposing hitters? Do you ever sort of be like, hey, like, oh, I don't know about that uniform combo, or like, do you ever try to get in their heads a little bit,
it,
or yeah,
in their head. It's usually if they do something that like sparks it, I'll try to say something like if they're trying to peek at the signs, I'll like call them out on it. I'll like watch where your eyes are or like something like that. I'll usually try to keep it pretty respectful, but if it's kind of a chippy game, who knows what I'm saying? Maybe I'm commenting on their unis or whatever. Or if they say,
because Coastal League is so insular. Like I'm sure you have played football and baseball and all sorts of
oh
sports
yeah,
against all these guys. So I didn't know if maybe you have a little bit of sort of,
oh
hey,
yeah,
hey, man, I already knocked your ass out in football. Like, let's see what you got
uh-huh.
here type of vibes.
Yeah,
Not
I
obviously
know.
to say that to someone, but it seems like there's good opportunities for you to
Oh,
play
for
mind
sure.
games.
Yeah, sometimes like for like say SFC, I know a few of the guys there. I remember my sophomore year, one of the guys I like said his like gamer tag because I played like MLB The Show with him. So I said his gamer tag, like how you doing, and like kind of like just get in the head a little bit and yeah.
Oh, that's delightful. That's how you know you've got his focus just a little bit skewed. Had you ever played him in the show
I did, yeah.
and
I
beat him?
beat him. Yeah, exactly. So I mentioned that a little bit and yeah.
Beat him in are you a Diamond Dynasty player? Do you play with a specific team? Are you a
I
Padres
was
person through and through?
Diamond Dynasty. I kind of haven't been playing as much video games as I did back in the day, but COVID, I was all day on Diamond Dynasty. Yeah,
Yes. Yeah, it is the perfect version of a video game now.
I
Um,
100%.
Absolutely agree. Well, Henry, thank you so much for being on with us. I like to remind everybody we are extremely, extremely good at baseball. So anybody, and the show is a perfect way to end this because anybody and everybody that you see on this show who is a baseball player, there is a decent chance that they will be somebody you can play as in MLB the show within the next 5 to 10 years. So
Yeah.
Henry, we will be following along and watching. Make sure you check him out with all the Bishops Knights back in action once the baseball season rolls around. It is going to be here well before you know it, or it's going to be over depending on when you end up watching this. I never know with YouTube when anyone ends up watching this, but if you get a chance, go check him out before he's headed off to Tufts. And thank you very much and congratulations, Henry.
Yep. Thank you very much, Christian.